Welcome to the CIT90 video, largest of 3. This will be part 2. In part 2 we will extend our largest.php program to include the use of user submitted forms. I'll be using information from chapter 4, functions and control structures, but the notion of an XHTML form should be familiar to you, and we'll simply tack on the get method to the form, and I'll show you how to process those. We'll start with our existing largest.php file. I'll change this to largest input. When we first start to use forms, we will use two separate files. We'll use one file for input, and then we'll use another file for processing. In a couple or 3 chapters, we will start to call the same PHP page with our gets or our posts, with whatever is being sent to the to us via a form. But for right now, we'll just create 2 files. My first is going to be input. I'll name it largest input.php, and my second one will be called largest process.php. So largest 3 program. Everything else remains the same. And here in my main div, instead of having PHP code, I will simply have XHTML code that will create a form. So go ahead and delete all my PHP code, and I will use the form code that is presented on page 166, chapter 4. It looks like a very good start for a form. The 2 attributes for my form that are of utmost importance in understanding form processing. The first attribute is the method, and this method for this one is going to be a get. What the get does, it is actually an HTTP protocol. It is a get. It creates what is called a query string. The query string is information that is just appended to your URL. So I'll demonstrate that when we can where we can actually enter the name value pairs for the query string directly into the URL address bar. But for right now, it's going to be just a value for the method attribute. Action is going to specify the name of the file that will be called or opened when this form is submitted. So when the user clicks the submit button, which file will be called, and I want this to be called largest process. Okay, somewhat following the naming convention of chapter 4. We will input with XHTML, then we'll process with PHP. I realize that this is there's no PHP code per se in this file, but nonetheless I've named it largest input.php. That's okay. And let's close our form. And we'll go ahead and create our form now. I've completed my form. Notice here I just have 3 P elements. Each element has its own input. It looks like a text box. The input element here is named num1. This input element is named num2. This input element is named num3. The input elements names are very important because these correspond to the name value pairs that the get will assign them. So when the user clicks on the button that says submit the integers, what will happen is num1 will have a value of what the user entered into the input box that happens to be 6 characters wide, and num2 will have the value of the number that is in the input box, the next one down, and num3 will have a value that is in this input box, the final input box. So these are called name value pairs. The name of my first get item here is num1. Its value will be input from the user, just what we want. Okay, so let's save this, and then let's also take a look and see what the page is going to be that will process this. So now that I have designed my input, I need to somehow process these. So I need to create the file that will be called when the user clicks on submit, and that will be largest process.php. I have it opened in TextPad here. I'll simply rename this from largest PHP to largest process. Remember, I have one file that was used for input, and this file is going to be used to process that input. And I'll save it before I forget. Make sure you save it as largest process. Just process. All right. And this will be a processing. Use some stars here instead. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, now this time I will certainly use PHP code. I'm going to use my same nums, but instead of giving them now initial values, they're going to have auto global values. So I'll use the auto global get underscore. Our syntax is all uppercase, square bracket, double quote, and then the name of the named element that is the first element in the query string, which is going to be num1. Remember, when I named those input, my gets were named. So here num1, I'll close this like this. Now this has a value now of whatever num1 was sent through HTTP with the GET protocol. And I will copy and paste these and change them to num1, num2, and num3. Okay, that's all there is to it. Save that, and now let's push these pages out to our server and run our program. I have my FTP client open. Here's my local machine. I just need to push the 2 pages that I just created to my server. So in largest input.php and largest process. Select those 2, drag them up to my server. Notice I put them in the week 05 folder. So when I run this, I'll just run this from the URL address line. I will want to call largest input.php. On my first test, I received a 404 file not found error. Make sure that you spell the file name of that is going to be the value of your action attribute for the form element. Make sure that you spell that properly. So in my case, largest process. I had misspelled largest, so of course I couldn't find that file. After I make a change, of course, I have to upload and change my server. And now I'm set to test again. And the page on my server is I should hook this up to my website, but for right now, week 05 and largest input.php. There we go. First number is 11, second number 22, third number 33. Now when I click on this, you can see the file that's being run here is largest input.php. What's going to happen, I'm going to create what's called a query string. The query string can be identified, and I'll show you how to enter this as well just from the address bar, but it just appends these name value pairs to my URL. My URL, when I click on this button here, submit the integers, do you remember what that URL is going to be? Okay, what was the action in my form element? What was the action, the value for the action attribute in my form element? Remember, it was a file called largest process. So when I click on this, my URL is going to be root direct, or the current directory, which is week 5 here, largest process.php with a query string num1 assignment operator 11, num2 assignment operator 22, num3 assignment operator 33. And when you click on this, you'll see here is the query string. So question mark num1 equals 11, and num2 equals 22, and num3 equals 33. And I still get a file not found error. I thought I corrected that. It is looking for LAREST, not largest. So I need to go ahead and make sure I uploaded the right page. Alright, let's try this once again. I'll mix my numbers up. 3, 3, 1, 1, 2, 2 on the bottom here. Submit the integers. You saw the query string last time. So again, I am calling largest process.php with a query string num1 with a value of 33, num2 with a value of 11, num3 with a value of 22. And there we go. It actually works. I need to work on my CSS a little bit to make this a little bit larger, but there's my largest number with my forms. Notice up here, here's my query string. So I could run this again. I don't actually have to use the form. Here I'll just enter a 99. num1 equals 99. So here are my name value pairs. num1, 99. num2, 11. And num3, 22. Just press enter, and the same thing. I should see largest number is 99. There you go. Can't see it with my colors, but that's a CSS issue I will have to work on. Alright, this concludes largest part 2 and concludes week 05. So I think I'm caught up with that. I'll see you guys in week 06, and I'll do a video for chapter 5, and let's see, maybe a video on, tell me on the boards if you guys need a video on the grade book, in chapter 4. If so, I'll produce one.